partners with State Park, so it's been a really easy transition because I knew a lot of the executive staff at State Park. So I'm really excited about this commission because, of course, in 2026 we have a lot going on. We all know the commission's mandate was created by the legislature to commemorate not just the events of 250 years ago, but how New York is still pursuing its dream, how there's an untold story out there, and the revolution is continuing for all of us. So it's fitting that we're meeting here at the Schomburg Center, and thank you, Joy, for hosting us. Our program today is going to focus on some of the work that's already being accomplished, what's going to happen next year, and some commemorative events over the next few months. Unfortunately, one of our commission members, Lauren Roberts, couldn't be here today. The Knox Trail project is getting started. There's a big press conference tomorrow for any of you who want to join us up at Peoples Island in Saratoga County. There's going to be reenactors there, and I'll be joining the artillery march on January 11th. So if you can't make it tomorrow, there's still time to join some of those events. So we want to update everybody on plans that are occurring, and first up, I'm going to ask David Frank to hop on up and tell us what state education is doing. And I should say, as you get up there, David, Secretary Rosa sends her apologies. She's on a federal commission overlooking the Puerto Rican government, and so she's in Puerto Rico today. And I teased her about my first commission meeting. We were supposed to co-chair it, and she's not here, but I've forgiven her already. Tell her that, David.
I think we're going to hear from...
Oh, right, I'm sorry, Joy's first. Sorry, Joy.
Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. It is our pleasure and our privilege to host the commissioners here this morning for the second time here at the Schomburg Center. At the Schomburg Center, we too are celebrating a commemorative year, our 100th anniversary of doing this work.
Yay.
Oh, thank you. And we are doing so in grand fashion, and know that we will be doing the same with the State Commission around New York, celebrating the place of New York State, New York City, and all of the surrounding environment in what it has meant to be a revolutionary space. And so I just want to welcome you here, welcome all of our guests from the public who are in the building today, and then of course those of you who are online. And of course I will just say that the Schomburg is always open to the commission and the work of the commissioners. And so with that, I will turn it over to the next speaker. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Assistant Commissioner David Frank from the New York State Education Department. And thank you, Commissioner Moser. And as you mentioned, Commissioner Rosa does send her regrets that she's not able to be here today. She had a federal matter to attend to, and she is very interested to hear what the activities of the Commission are today and ongoing. And so, Phil, can we put the PowerPoint up? Perfect. We can go to the next slide. Perfect. So we've been doing a lot of work at State Ed, and we thank the Commission for their direction and approval of the disbursement of the $2.5 million allocated by the state legislature to support the work of the Commission. I hope that you'll see that we haven't been let any grass grow under our feet. The first thing that I want to mention is we're very happy that we were able to bring on, with the funding allocated, a staff person to help with this work. And so we went through a rigorous interview process, and we were able to hire Zara Pyle, who's here today. So Zara, if you can just wave your hands, and Zara is helping me with doing the work that the Commission approved through our budget plan that we submitted and that the Commission adopted. We're working very closely with the New York State Museum, and we're very happy that the museum director, Jennifer Saunders, is here today, and you'll hear from Jennifer a little later about the work that the museum is doing in depth. But for those of you who haven't seen, and I'm sure Jennifer will speak about this later, but we're very happy that the department recently unveiled the first of what will be a much larger exhibit about the 250th called George Washington, An American Paradox. And so you can go to the museum's website and see some information about the exhibit. But if you happen to be in Albany, I strongly encourage you to go and see the exhibit firsthand. It's a small exhibit really highlighting this paradoxical nature of George Washington and the incredible role that he played as one of the members of the founding generation, but also you can hear directly the voices of indigenous individuals, of enslaved individuals, and see that history is often not as clear-cut as we like to think. We also have been working very closely with the Association of Public Broadcasting Stations to connect the work of the commission to PBS stations across New York. As you recall, part of our Strategy 1, History in Our Backyard, is to disperse funding to the PBS stations to help deepen and expand the existing work that they're doing to bring the revolution to households across New York State. And so we're in the final process of dispersing $300,000 to the 8 PBS stations that are chartered by the Board of Regents here in New York, everywhere from the shores of Long Island up to the Buffalo-Niagara frontier and everywhere in between. And so we have a statutory formula that we use to disperse these funds. And so we're using that formula to get the funding out to the 8 PBS stations. Lastly, in Strategy 1, History in Our Backyard, Devin Lander is working very closely with the Pomeroy Foundation, and we have connected with our existing Indigenous Education Advisory Council, which is comprised of representatives from the 9 indigenous nations that New York State has a government-to-government relationship with. And we'll be working to reinterpret the markers, the Sullivan-Clinton campaign markers across New York State, and that a lot of that funding is in-kind funding from the Pomeroy Foundation, which we are very grateful for, and we're glad that Devin has that connection to the Pomeroy Foundation to do that work. I'm sure all of you are very eager to hear about Strategy 2, empowering local partners to share our revolutionary history. We were very happy that on October 1st, as directed by the Commission, we sent out initial communication to 58 counties across New York, including New York City. 58 counties plus New York City, I should say. All 58 counties and the City of New York responded, which we were very happy about. And we thank the New York State Association of Counties that helped us with that communication. We didn't reach out to them, but they heard from some of their county members that this funding was available. And they reached out to all 58 counties in New York. And we're very happy to say that all of them did respond. We weren't sure if they would respond, but they have. And of the 58 counties plus New York City, in that initial correspondence, we asked them to designate either themselves, a not-for-profit within their geographic area, or to give that money to the Archives Partnership Trust. 86% of them chose the county as a designee. 14% chose a not-for-profit. And of course, as we've discussed before, we were very clear with them that this funding can be granted out. So even though the county may have taken the money, certainly I know many, many counties, and we've spoken to them, do plan to re-grant the money out to not-for-profits within their geographic areas. Following up that initial correspondence, and once we heard back from all of the counties, on November 21st, we did send a second correspondence to them asking them for some more detail. And in that correspondence, we let them know, we thanked them, of course, for responding, and we let them know some more information about how we'll be dispersing these funds. It'll be through a grant. And we let them know that in the future, in the near future, we will ask them to sign an MOU with the State Education Department, which we have not developed, and that's one of the asks that we have today is for feedback on that potential MOU. We ask them to attest that the funds will support New York 250 activities. We ask them to provide a very brief, high-level plan of what they intend to do with these funds. We ask them to attest that they will fully cooperate and participate in New York 250 activities, and that they will submit a short closeout report at the end of the grant period. One of the things, and we haven't heard from every county yet, we've only heard from 35 of the 58 entities. We have not heard back from New York City either. And we will ask them in broad terms, what do they plan to do with these funds? And we plan to then create a report that we will send to the commission to give you an overview of what the counties or the not-for-profits that are responding on behalf of the counties plan to do with these funds. And by the way, none of the counties chose to use the Archives Partnership Trust, which is okay. They're still will work with us as needed. We will send a reminder out to counties on December 8th and then follow up as needed. We know it's a busy time of year. And between now and the end of the year, we will be starting that work on developing the MOU. We have been advised that some of the entities that you represent on the council might be receiving funding. And so we want to be very careful about any potential conflicts of interest regarding development of the MOU. And so we would just ask, we will not police it, we'll ask you to police that on your behalf. But we will send Zara actually will send a very short survey asking you for feedback on what you would like to see in that MOU. We are trying to keep them very broad and high level, but some of the things that we spoke about in the past are community engagement, reporting back to New York 250, ensuring that counties are transparent about how they're using these funds, and making sure that they're public facing. And so we'll give you some of those ideas that came from previous commission meetings, and we look forward to getting more ideas from you in the coming week or so. Lastly, in strategy 3 is the Tapestry of New York work. We're very happy that we're in the very final stages of doing an agreement with WNET, PBS New York, on supporting the development of the Tapestry of New York project. Part of the budget and timeline that we have with them is immediately upon execution of that MOU, which we anticipate will happen in the coming weeks, they'll start drafting educator toolkits, engage in web development. In the past, I've highlighted the New York Tenement Museum's virtual quilt, which is a template for what we'd like the New York 250 quilt to look like. They'll be working to pilot that educator toolkit, and we'll of course share that with the commission for your feedback as we get those deliverables. And we'll start creating promotional materials and launch early promotional campaigns in partnership with the New York State Education Department for all 731 school districts across the state of New York to get buy-in and excitement around creating the electronic quilt. We'll then work throughout the spring and fall to engage in outreach, develop lesson plans for teachers, and integrate this into the existing New York State history standards work that happens primarily in grades 4 and 8 and 11, but also in all classrooms across all grade levels. And so more information will come about the portrait, about the Tapestry of New York shortly as we finalize that MOU. But that's, in a nutshell, the work that we're doing at State Ed to implement your vision for this work. And I will now turn it back over to Commissioner Moser for any questions that the commission might have.
Before we do that, I just want to mention, as David noted, the State Museum and all of us at the Office of Cultural Ed are working on 250. And what I brought today and shared with the commission is a little card with a QR code and a website. This is a 250th project on behalf of the New York State Library. Taking Commissioner Rosa's idea of the unfinished revolution, they are asking for personal histories and personal stories related to the 250th. So this is a call to all citizens of the state of New York that want to share their story or their community story or history, can send it in digitally, can come in as a document, a PDF, or can be a recording or something along those lines. More information is at the website on here, which we will be linking to on our 250th website. But I just wanted to let folks know that the State Library and the State Archives and the State Museum are working collectively, and I think this is a great idea to try to collect these stories for the future and for the next 250th. So thank you.
Thanks, Devin. Thanks, David, as well. You know, and one of the things that all of us in the room know is that New York is, we were the first capital of the new nation. We're a leader in the women's suffrage movement at Seneca Falls, in the labor movement, in the rights of the LGBTQ plus community. And so it's fitting that we're here at the Schomburg Center and talking about, you know, how we're going to be celebrating the Revolution 250th, as well as the work that hasn't gotten done yet. So with that, I wanted to turn it over. Did we have any questions for David Frank on the update for state ed? Oh, okay. Barbara?
Yeah.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi, how are you? I just have one question on the tapestry. So is that something that would be into the schools starting in that September and opening?
No, we actually, so we'll continue the work through September.
Right.
But the goal is that students will start working on this starting this spring, the spring of, April, May, June of 2026.
Okay, so that kickoff that you mentioned would be coming up in 2026?
Yes, and
Okay.
we do plan to start doing those. Stay tuned, watch this space in early January. Start working on those educator guides, get those out and get feedback starting in February, and then start that push to have students actually doing this work starting in, I don't want to say March, but April, May, June.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Oh, go ahead, Connie.
David, what is the date by which these funds need to be encumbered, the ones that are coming out from state ed?
Right now, they would need to be encumbered by March 31st, 2026. However, we are working with our intergovernmental team to allow for an extension of that. We're not asked, we would love additional funding. This work, we've heard from counties and from not-for-profits, they're very excited and they want to deepen this work. However, we fully anticipate that we will be able to push back that encumbrance into the next budget year, subject to legislative and gubernatorial approval.
So that date would be pushed back to July something, or March of the next year, or?
March of the next year.
March of the next year.
Yes, that's our hope.
Okay.
But of course,
Instead of
you know,
March of 2026.
27.
Now 27.
Yeah, that would be our ideal. But as you said, the money doesn't have to be spent, it just has to be encumbered right now. And our hope, we do realize, though, that very short turnaround.
Lisa, go ahead.
David, in a prior meeting, you had mentioned. Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. David, in a prior meeting, you mentioned working through BOCES. Is that still your intention?
So that was one of our original ideas, is
Okay.
that we would, part of the MOU would be requiring you to, as a county, let's say, to reach out to your local BOCES. At State Ed, we think that that's a great idea, but we do want to get your feedback as a commission on that. We still would like them to work with their local schools, BOCES, but also, as Devin mentioned, local libraries, historic societies, arts organizations. And so we want them to do a lot of outreach. What that looks like, though, might look very different in each of the
Sure.
62 counties.
I'm sorry, I should have been more specific. I'm speaking specifically about the quilt
The what?
the quilt project.
Oh, yes. So We actually have presented this to our 37 BOCES district superintendents. They're very excited about it and they're eager to help. And so WNET will be working with the BOCES as a dissemination vehicle, but we also want to afford any students, particularly students with disabilities that attend school at a BOCES, that they have an opportunity to participate as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thanks, David. I think we're good.
Thank you.
And so we at the Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation have been super busy on getting ready for the 250th. So Daniel McKay, who's our Deputy Commissioner for Historic Preservation, is going to give an update on state parks and historic.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good morning. Nice to see you all again. Joy, thank you for hosting a second meeting here at Schaumburg, and nice, very nice that a larger group of the commission members get to experience this site. I hope folks take time at lunch to see some of the exhibit spaces here. They are remarkable. Let me get to my slide. So this would be, if the booth needs to assist, this is the presentation by New York State Parks, dated December 2025. If we could bring that up. Let me say as a preamble, there's a lot of work behind the scenes just to get the money allocated. So I want to express our agency's appreciation for the division of budget to allocate. The money has to come to New York State Parks first, and then our financial office staff to work with State Ed financial office staff to get the 2.5 transferred to SED. And clearly the spending is beginning. So is the presentation? One moment. Thank you. What you will see in this presentation is that there are, there's a lot of sort of preamble work to get things set up, and I think it's December 2025, OPRHP. What you will see, I think by our next meeting, date yet not determined, but something in the March timeframe, a lot of the work that is referenced in both our presentations today will be at a much more detailed stage and within the next few months. So things are certainly churning at both agencies, and we look forward to the next meeting's report out as well. So just one more minute.
We're having a little technical difficulty, but we'll be right with you. So hold tight, okay, everybody?
Yes, they are. They've been.
I don't know, maybe it shows that State Ed is better at technology than the Office of Parks. Historic
Oh,
preservation.
that might be true.
Just kidding, Daniel.
No, that might be true. I can handle it.
Talk to your neighbor. Small group work.
Let me expand while we're waiting on the events tomorrow at Peoples Island State Park. Peoples Island State Park is a park at the confluence of the Hudson and Mohawk Rivers, just about 8 miles north of Albany. And it's referenced in the back of the December 2025. Update. Sorry, Joy. So Lauren Roberts, as she has reported as a member of the commission, she's the Saratoga County historian. She has done an extraordinary job organizing, the Cannon Trail, the Knox Cannon Trail reenactment. And events started December 5th at Crown Point State Historic Site up in Essex County in Lake Champlain. And the Cannon Trail is coming down the Hudson River. People's Island is a location where they would have forded the Mohawk River with those cannon. And so we are hosting a press conference tomorrow with some of the cannon and sledges available for viewing and for media engagement. The Cannon Trail will be going to Schuyler Mansion in Fort Craylow, in Albany and Rensselaer. And then, as Commissioner Mosher mentioned, the Cannon Trail, there it is. The Cannon Trail event, the pass-off to Massachusetts, will be happening on January 11th in Hillsdale. So,
Dan, is that event tomorrow streamed?
I don't think it is going to be streamed, but we'll be happy to sort of pull together the social media for amplification and report out to the commission. So, all right. So the presentation from Parks. As you know, we have, preceding the commission's allocation to New York State Parks, the $2.5 million, that'll be the focus of this presentation. The agency has completed or has underway over $75 million in capital investments, interpretive program upgrades, exhibit upgrades across a number of sites. And that number leads the nation in terms of the investment that New York State is making in the commemoration of the 250th. As you know, the intent of the allocation to New York State Parks was to support on-site experiences, share online educational materials, demonstrate the agency's and New York's stewardship of historic resources, and build awareness of New York's role both historically and contemporaneously in the American Revolution. This was the allocation, how the allocation worked out for us. This is the budget that was approved at our September meeting. And this is the general disbursement of funds, the 2.5. And here is the update with our seasonally appropriate photos, David Frank. So $1.185 million to interpretive program and exhibition support. So we are in the process of engaging with our regions and our historic sites. They are going through a two-part application process. We have allocated a specific amount of money to virtually every parks region, whether or not they have a historic site or a park directly affiliated with the American Revolution. And so those regions and those sites are submitting preliminary applications for funding. They are being reviewed by staff in our office to make sure they are detailed and appropriate and meeting the goals of our whole history, the agency's initiative to expand sort of the realm of interpretation around the American Revolution and other subjects. We are in the process of taking the kiosk content and converting it to HTML code and making it fully available online. And then we have the promotion and outreach component. The Revisit the Revolution van will be providing interpretive program support and making the collections of the agency available on a statewide basis. So planning and implementation of all of these programs is underway. The regional programs in particular are going through an application process, and I would expect by our next meeting I can provide very detailed plans on what each region and each state historic site with a RevWork connection will be doing in terms of programming in the 2026-2027 timeframe. We are developing signature events at each of those sites. And so that's the budget there, and that's the update. So no changes to the budget. This is the budget you approved, and this is the budget that's being implemented, and by March we will have very detailed, very great details to share with you in that regard. capital projects. This included a contribution to replace a loss of NPS funding at Crown Point, the transport van for bringing the state parks collection out into the field, and then we are fabricating a fireable cannon at Fort Montgomery, which overlooks Bear Mountain Bridge and is a key point of defense on the Hudson River. That cannon, the RFQ for that cannon is being finalized, and we expect to have that cannon fabricated and in place this summer. So come fire a cannon with us. And then this is the details there. And then Travis, who is here today, is lead on the concept and design for the exhibit transport van. So we're in the process of finalizing the interpretive focus, the contents, and what the design of that van needs to look like. And then finally, we had an archaeological component, funding for 2 different archaeological studies, one at Oriskany, the other at Newtown Battlefield. The Oriskany study actually is underway, first dollar spent by the commission, so to speak. Before weather closed it out, there has been snow in the region, so we had about 2.5 weeks of initial archaeological survey work at Oriskany, and some very interesting early finds there. I'm going to have staff put together a more detailed presentation on that. I want to acknowledge that our intent is, upon completion of that study, to have a public report out, an interpretive program available online for folks to see what the results of that survey were. And then I want to acknowledge that Peter Feynman, at an earlier meeting, I don't recall if it was August or September, requested that the agency consider incorporating a public archaeology role in this work, at least one of these studies. We were not on a timeline to allow that to happen at Oriskany, so I apologize for that. But we are intending to incorporate a public archaeology component at Newtown Battlefield State Historical Park outside of Elmira when that project gets underway spring, summer. So we are beginning conversations with some of the statewide organizations that support archaeology, and we'll have more details to share. But if Peter is on the call today, as a member of the public, I just want to assure you that we have taken that suggestion seriously and are pursuing the appropriate ability to incorporate that public component. So again, the scope of the cost of the survey at Oriskany has changed a little bit. We're going to take the cost overrun there from the cost of the survey at Newtown, so the budget remains whole. And that is it. As I said, I do think we will be in a very strong position in the March timeframe whenever the commission needs next to provide some very specific and exciting details as to what programming will look like over the next 18 months in the Historic Site Network, and detailed reports on the archaeology and concepts, some visuals for what the van, the transport van, and other components of the allocation will look like. So staff is really excited to be underway with this work, to have money in hand, and we just appreciate you all supporting that budget and look forward to sharing results with you all over the next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. Do any commission members have any questions for Daniel on the work that Parks and Historic Preservation is doing? So I wanted to give commission members an opportunity as well to give any updates. So, Justin or Ross, if either one of you want to give an update. No, Ross, you do?
Sure. Yeah.
Floor is yours.
Just very quickly, I Love New York, obviously, throughout our owned assets and a lot of our promotional work, our trade work, our sales work, we're continually talking about the 250th. But a couple of noteworthy things that have happened recently. Hopefully you have seen the branded I Love New York American 250 and Path Through History Spa that is running at the beginning of the Ken Burns documentary on New York City PBS and also the Capital Region PBS. So we're happy that that spot is running, and we'll have results that we'll be able to share in terms of driving traffic to our website. We've also hosted a familiarization tour for travel media, specifically themed on the 250. We brought journalists to sites in New York City, in the Hudson Valley, Capital Region, Saratoga, to highlight those ties to the American Revolution and the plans for America 250 here in New York. And we've already seen some coverage by travel journalists as a result of that tour. And then also I shared with the commission members here on the table a new postcard that we've created. This is being provided for anyone who registers an event on the New York 250 calendar on ilovenewyork.com. It's an additional incentive that they'll get these for free, and they could have it out throughout the season to promote both their events and events happening across the state. So we hope that you will all continue spreading the word with anyone you work with to let them know it's absolutely free to have their event on our calendar, to just go to ilovenewyork.com/America250. And there's information there on how they could register their event. And you can also see, as travelers are already seeing, all the events that are already registered. Not as many as we expect there will be, not as many as we want, but already a core that's starting.
Thanks, Ross. Any other commission members want to share updates? Louise?
Thanks very much. Thanks to all of you. We've opened the first sort of precursor to our 2026 offerings. It's a wonderful exhibition drawn from the Americana collection of David Rubenstein, which includes a stone copy of the Declaration of Independence. The exhibition is called Declaring the Revolution. It is really just a marvelous array of materials, really heart-stopping, brings you truly up close and personal with how the revolution came to happen and what happened as it was declared. So it's ongoing until March of 2026, and very much hope that you'll be able to stop by at the New York Historical and take a look. We have lots of other events planned throughout 2026, above all the opening of our new Tang Wing for American Democracy, which will be completely stocked with tributes to the American democracy and the 250th anniversary. Thank you.
Go ahead, Barbara.
I'm sure my co-commissioner, Georgette from Suffolk County, joins me in letting you know that Suffolk County has their 250 passport. You can simply go to our website, which is suffolk250.org, and download it. Or if you prefer to buy a copy, you can buy it through Amazon. I will be sending the link to Devin, and it will be on the New York State 250 website. Feel free to look through it. Feel free to take ideas. And if anyone is coming to Suffolk County, you want this right in the car with you. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah, we'll be having an event. Right now, the date is October 24th at the Manor of St. George on the South Shore of Suffolk County. That'll be our main event for the year. And for those of you who don't know, the Manor of St. George was turned into a British fort. They had ships off the coast with British stores, and the entire fort was taken over by a rather small group of dragoons in November of 1780. So that will be our major kickoff, but there's a lot more events coming up before that. I also had the pleasure of being out at the William Floyd Estate last week. They have done a tremendous amount of work on it. I challenged every Suffolk County resident to visit there in 2026. It is a federal location, but of the 4 signers of the Declaration of Independence, William Floyd's house is the only one standing that he left to join the Continental Congress and he returned to after the war. So it's quite an important stop for Suffolk County. I'll let
Thanks,
Georgette,
Barbara.
you got anything else to add?
George, that's good. Anyone else of the commission want to add any updates?
I just want to let folks know that my colleague, Dr. Brian Jones, will come join us later to share the New York Public Library's plans for celebrating the 250th, which is a library-wide activation. And so all of our spaces will in some way reflect the commemoration, beginning with the 42nd Street branch, and all of those spaces will be so it involves all of my colleagues here at the New York Public Library. So there will be more shared with you all later this afternoon.
Thanks, Joy. And now I have the pleasure of introducing Eljoy Williams, who's going to do a presentation for us today. She is the president of the NAACP, both in the New York State Conference as well as in Brooklyn. She's a political strategist, a civic leader, the host of Sunday Civics podcast, which I'm going to have to check out soon, and she's the chair of the Higher Heights Political Action Committee. So, Joy, yeah, if you get up on the podium, we're really excited to hear from you.
Good morning. Let me tell you how excited I am to be with the nerd historians today. I count myself as an amateur historian, and so anytime that I get to be with other civic organizations and historians and others, to me, y'all are rock stars, and I have been preparing for this, much to the annoyance of my husband, who's like, aren't you just giving a small presentation at the thing? I was like, it is not small. It is the 250th anniversary, and talking about how we contributed to the founding of this country. And so it has been my delight to prepare for this and to have this conversation, and to also acknowledge one of the commission members who's also on the NAACP, and others who may be in the room who are NAACP members. It is a delight to be with you this morning. So I do have a presentation, and really just to set the stage, want to talk about how the New York State Conference, along with our branches across the state, our adult branches, our youth councils and college chapters and others, will be incorporated. I know that for a number of you in your different capacities, you are actively engaged with other NAACP branches in your respective areas who have already probably been contacted to participate in some activities. But I wanted to talk about this in our context of statewide, and how we will use this moment that we are in for next year. It is completely fitting to be in the Schaumburg and be back here. I interned here for a bit, and also, again, as an amateur, have come here numerous times and doing various research between here and the Library of Congress, where the NAACP archives sit. As we prepare for the anniversary, I want to offer a frame that guides all of my work in the NAACP New York State Conference, that Black struggle has always pushed this country closer to its unfulfilled democratic ideals, not just through protest, but through institution building, civic leadership, and a relentless insistence on the words, a more perfect union. This anniversary is not simply an invitation to celebrate, it is an obligation to confront and reinterpret. The revolution did not give birth to American democracy. It produced an independent nation state. Democracy, the ongoing work of shaping a more perfect union, has always been forged by the people, and particularly Black people who forced this nation to live closer to its ideals, particularly during the moment when the words were crafted. And that means that we commemorate the 250th. We are not merely looking backward at the founding moment. We are examining the evolving contested struggle to define what democracy has meant, who it has included, and who has expanded it. And Black New Yorkers have been central to that from the beginning. So I want to talk about our approach as the NAACP New York State Conference, which will rest on 4 commitments that I'm sure you will recognize. 1, we will center Black New Yorkers, because you cannot tell the story of freedom in this state without the people who expanded it. The historical record is full of documented Black political formation, institution building, property ownership, labor organizing, and resistance that predates emancipation. We will align with the state mandates and recommendations for a complete and honest commemoration, so that we are not continuing myth-making, but grappling with the contradictions and contested narratives and the unfinished work of freedom. 3, we will highlight 90 years of NAACP statewide civic leadership because our branches have been infrastructure for democracy. While we are celebrating the 250th, NAACP New York State Conference will be celebrating our 90th. And our branches have kept records, led campaigns, and shaped public memory across regions, and we have been an engine of participatory democracy. And then lastly, we will connect past struggles to the democracy to what we must build now. A country that refuses to confront its past will always repeat it, as in what we're going through now. And a commemoration that only looks backward will fail its responsibility to the present. And so as we are continuing to do our activations and our work, we will connect the history and bring it alive into what we are experiencing in this current time. I do want to affirm the priorities for this commemoration. I believe the, the New York State African American History Commission also put forth one of its recommendations for a theme of struggle for freedom for all, and the understanding that the Revolutionary Era event as it stands, we should also include expand and include the ever-increasing democracy. And that statement acknowledges that liberation in America is not linear. It evolves through systems and counter-systems, resistance movements, and reinterpretations of constitutional meaning. Elevating the paradoxes of Black population in the Revolutionary War is crucial, because we have Black soldiers who fought for freedom they were denied, Black loyalists who sought liberty through the crown, and Black communities who built parallel structures when the Republic refused them belonging. Honoring these stories is not supplementary, but it is structural to our complete understanding of that era, of that time period. So, Black communities have always pushed this nation toward what it claimed to be. Across every region of the state, Black people did more than survive, we built. One of the greatest periods I like going back to is the Reconstruction era, but going to our revolutionary period in the free Black communities and others that were built during that time as well. We built schools long before the state acknowledged our right to literacy. We built mutual aid societies when social welfare refused us. We built churches that doubled as political headquarters. We built businesses that challenged labor exclusions. We built newspapers that shaped the national public sphere. And Black New Yorkers didn't merely resist oppression, we constructed alternative governance. And that is a political legacy as foundational as anything that was debated in Philadelphia in 1776. New York's political and economic structures were built with Black labor and Black resistance. And if we narrate the American Revolution as a story about the ideals of liberty, then New York must be understood as a site where those ideals were constantly tested, expanded, and reinterpreted by Black residents. This is where property became a claim to citizenship, print culture became a vehicle for abolition, collective organizing became a tool of political self-determination. And to historians, this means that the 250th is not simply a commemoration, it is an opportunity to correct interpretive imbalances. Not just uplifting the mythological founders and individuals, but the people who built, defended, and reimagined democracy when the nation would not. So when we trace the long arc of history, the pattern is unmistakable. The timeline that we have here shows not only isolated moments, but a continuous political tradition, right? We go from free Black landowners in New Amsterdam who are shaping early civic life, writing about early civic life, the Black Revolutionary War veterans who are petitioning for their pensions, asserting their rights through the paper, through law, through bureaucracy. We all go all the way to the abolition and mutual aid movements. And then NAACP is founded, right, in 1909, and then we continue to go on, and our mandate overall continuing to tell this story. This is what W.E.B. Du Bois meant when he described Black struggle as the beating heart of American democracy. Now, many know very well the early moments of NAACP's early campaigns, but what is often less discussed is the role that NAACP branches as civic institutions again, branches kept archives, documented history and evidence and discrimination when the infrastructure did not exist for that at that time. Branches trained generations in public leadership, wrote petitions, filed lawsuits, held mass meetings, shaped political discourse. So our role in the 250th is not symbolic. We are one of the few organizations with both archival memory and current civic mobilization capacity. We sit at the intersection of history and democratic practice. And we bring a coordinated statewide network of 54 adult branches, over 20 youth councils and college chapters. That means infrastructure, relationships, credibility, and reach. And we bring deep intergenerational relationships in Black communities across New York. Our branches know the local stories and the local needs. And we understand that locality matters, even listening to some of you and talking about the different iterations of telling the story in the different regions across the state. Political culture is regional. Historical memory is regional. Resistance traditions are regional. And a statewide network means we are not approaching the 250th with a single narrative, but with 54 historically grounded entry points into the Black experience. And our relationships in those communities are deep, long-standing, and trust-based. This means we can move beyond just celebratory events, but the foundation to ongoing efforts of expanding American democracy even now. And during that time, for 90 years, as I talk about, right, our branches, let's see, go back, right? We have the ability to operate as public classrooms, incubators, and repositories of history and organizers of political action. So here's what we can make possible, right? Because as some of you on the commission are talking about the different areas and the different regions across the state, and being able to just imagine linking those to the branches that we have who are ongoing, working and doing ongoing work in their communities right now, from Buffalo and Niagara, Syracuse, Albany and Troy. People forget about Long Island all the time. In the Hudson Valley, right? So there are so many different possibilities that are possible if we connect these all regionally and in our branches and in our communities. So if the 250th isn't to be just like, oh, we did these events and check the box, right? It cannot only be about historical recovery, it must be about civic preparation. Because history is only as powerful as what people are prepared to do with it. So for the NAACP, we are looking to expand youth civic leadership programs, community teach-ins that integrate local archives, rights and responsibility workshops, statewide democracy literacy initiatives, because as historians and teachers and just general amateur nerds about this, right? We know this truth, that history is a nerd unless people are prepared to act on its lessons. The 250th can't just be a museum exhibit, although those are cool. I'm not saying they're not. But it has to also be a mobilizing force. Now, I am guided by, as I call one of our ancestors, Mother Sister Septima Clark, these words are among my guiding principles as a civic educator. Democracy does not flourish by accident. It requires the continuous practice of citizens who know their rights and responsibilities. And Septima Clark and a number of other who founded citizenship schools, who continuing on to the Freedom Schools movement, is not simply quoting a civic virtue. She is articulating a theory of citizenship as daily work, a daily practice. Black New Yorkers have been practicing democracy, often under duress, often without recognition, since we have been on these shores. And this anniversary gives us a chance to name that tradition clearly, formally, and without apology. So I will close by saying these are the things that we are working on. This is what I will be presenting to our branches at our first quarterly meeting on January 10th. and building a toolkit that we hope will be in coordination with the work that is being done by this commission and all across the state, bringing the intellectual, archival, and civic infrastructure required to ensure the commemoration is worthy of the moment, that history is not simply what happened, but that history is what we choose to eliminate. And we will illuminate the truth fully, courageously, and in partnership so that the next 250 years might finally live up to the work that our ancestors began. Thank you.
Thanks, Joy, that was amazing. I loved it. So, any questions or comments from commission members? And we have your contact information, right, so that we can incorporate you more, so,
Yes.
great,
Thank you.
thanks. So we're running a little bit over time, but we're going to take a break now for lunch, and I think, why don't we give ourselves 45 minutes and reconvene at 1 o'clock? So, thanks, everyone. And if you're on virtual, just go have lunch and come back and join us at 1 p.m.
just a temporary exhibition. This is a major installation that's happening at the State Museum. And right now, the plans are for the exhibit to be up for 8 years for the full duration of the Revolutionary period. Let's see if I can figure out how to use this. All right, great. So the exhibition itself is organized around the themes, the official themes of the New York Commemoration of the 250th, which includes the power of place, choosing sides, revolutionary ideas, founding the nation, unfinished revolutions, and we the people. And what I've prepared for you today are a number of just sort of images of what the exhibition will look like. You have to kind of play along with this, right? Because as good as graphic design is these days, it's never that exciting to look at preliminary plans for an exhibit. It's the kind of thing, obviously, that is much better in person. So you're going to have to kind of cast your mind and dream with me as we imagine real objects in the cases and the images that you see. But here you have a perspective view of the exhibit introduction. The image on the left depicts the tearing down of King George III's statue at Bowling Green in Manhattan in July 1776. On the right, we have a wagon, which is emblazoned with the spirit of 76 on the side. And that was actually used in women's suffrage parades on Long Island, which was connecting the ideas of the Revolutionary period to women's rights in the 20th century. The introductory mural on your left is depicting revolutionary New Yorkers from more than 2 centuries of activism. So everyone from Alexander Hamilton all the way through to Shirley Chisholm. This is an entrance view of the exhibit. And as we stated, it is following those themes that have been laid out. So the entry theme is the power of place on your left, and then we the people is on the right. And I'll kind of walk you through some of this. Importantly, the exhibit is centered around the 18th century gunboat that was discovered during the construction at the World Trade Center in 2010. I'm sure you have all heard this story, but it bears repeating. You know, they're excavating the World Trade Center site and amazingly come upon this gunboat. I think perhaps even more amazingly, it was recognized by the crew that it was something important, and work stopped in order to make sure that that could be excavated. It was then transferred to Texas A&M, and Dr. Peter Fix worked on conservation of the individual timbers, which were then brought on site and have been assembled at the New York State Museum. I'm really pleased to tell you that the reassembly of the gunboat was actually completed this week. So it has been put back together. It looks amazing. You didn't get all the way to the end, but it's reassembled and importantly has a wonderful armature that's supporting it to make sure that it's cared for while it's on display at the museum. The history of the gunboat, just briefly, is that it was built in Philadelphia in the early 1770s. And then the current understanding is that it was then captured by the British for a period of time and then abandoned along the Hudson River. Apparently, one of our sister museums in Pennsylvania felt that they should have the boat, but we said finders keepers because it was left in New York. So you have here power of place that you're looking on. You can see her at the stern of the vessel there. And this is looking at the centrality of New York in the American War for Independence. On the right-hand side, you can see the section that's focused on choosing sides, which looks at the complex decision-making of rebels and loyalists, women, free and enslaved Black people, and indigenous nations in navigating the conflict. Like a point of sort of personal privilege here, I've been researching my own family history in New York State, having moved here, and have an ancestor, Peter Pringle, who apparently enlisted 5 times for various battles. He fought at the Battle of White Plains and eventually settled in Genesee County. But I think it becomes very personal when we start to think about this less at the level of the conflict overall, but at the individual level. Like, what are the decisions that individuals were making in order to navigate this extremely tumultuous time that they were living through? Talking about indigenous nations, you know, of the six nations, the Cayuga, Mohawk, Onondaga, and Seneca sided with the British, whereas the Oneida and Tuscarora with the Americans. Decisions were being made based on what was the personal interest, what might be in the best interest of a family, of a community, and not necessarily based on some of these larger ideals that we often think about associated with the revolution. This is the entrance to the section called Founding the Nation, and this area looks at the role of New Yorkers in crafting the nation's constitution, as well as the legacy of the revolution on indigenous people in the area that became New York State. Because this is an initiative of the New York State Office of Cultural Education, we are importantly involving the state archives and the state library. At multiple points in the gallery, you'll see primary resources in display cases that come from the library and archives that showcase original documents while ensuring their long-term preservation throughout the time that the exhibit is up. This is an overhead view of the gallery. You can see that we're looking back on Power of Place, and then in this image, choosing sides is on the right-hand side. Because the exhibition takes you through the full journey of the revolution in New York State, we're not ending with the revolutionary period. We're looking at the concept of unfinished revolutions and how revolution has played a central role in New York State history across time, from Seneca Falls and women's suffrage to abolition and civil rights, labor rights, environmental justice, and the struggle for LGBTQ+ rights and equality. New Yorkers have really led the way in advancing some of these ideals, these revolutionary ideals in New York and across the country. By opening the conversation about the entirety of New York's revolutionary history, we hope visitors will be able to connect to their own story and to that of the nation's revolutionary heritage. After this exhibit opens, it's due to open in June 2026, we do have a second section that will be opening at some point after that called Liberty Lab, which will be a hands-on exploration of many of the ideals that are explored in the exhibit. I also want to note that there are documentary film components to the exhibition, as well as supplementary curriculum materials that we'll be developing to support the exhibition to be used in schools throughout the state. And that is essentially an overview of the exhibit, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Colette, do you have a question? Sorry, Georgette.
Great. So I'm hoping, first of all, I love to see the work of David Bonmartine in the schematic. And I just wanted to ask about the buggy.
Yes.
The beetle.
Yes. Yeah. So the beetle is actually a part of LGBTQ history. So it is. It was. I'm not sure how to talk about this in a public forum, but it was driven by a young woman, and someone graffitied a slur against her, and she decided to basically take that slur back, and then proceeded to drive the buggy, the VW bug, around the country, talking about LGBTQ rights, and it has become a symbol for the LGBTQ+ civil rights movement in New York.
Thank you for that. It looks beautiful. I can't wait to see it in person.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I'm thinking, I haven't met with Commissioner Rossi yet about next year's meeting dates and places, but it would be really fun to have the commission meet at the New York State Museum and see that exhibition with you, Jennifer. So
We would love that.
we'll make sure it's after June.
Great, thank you.
Great. Okay. So our host, Joy Bivens from the Schomburg Center, had to leave, but she's arranged to have Brian Jones here from the New York Public Library. Brian is the Senior Director of Reading and Engagement. He's also Associate Director here at the Schomburg Center and a Scholar in Residence. And Brian's going to talk about the things that the New York Public Library has planned for the 250th. Thanks, Brian.
Hi, welcome. Was Associate Director and Scholar in Residence here, but maybe always, in a sense. I like to think so, certainly. Thanks, everyone. I'm here literally reprising a deck on somewhat short notice that our president, Tony Marks, gave recently at one of our board meetings, which is also a public meeting. So this is already in the public record, no big secrets being revealed here, but happy to walk you through pretty quickly what is essentially our high-level plans, what are our high-level plans for the 250th as they've shaped up. And try to leave some, I won't read every slide, you'll have these so you can look through them, but I'll try to leave some time for questions and discussion. So overall, just three main goals. And you know, this is something that has been very much shaped and reshaped and reshaped and workshopped with many different stakeholders at NYPL, and trying to get the balance right between thinking about the many different ways that the communities that we serve want to approach this moment with elements of celebration, but of course also the need for opportunities for reflection. Secondly, highlighting NYPL's unique role. What is it that we uniquely have to offer at this time? And we see ourselves as having two things. One, that we're, of course, a collector of unique and amazing items, and so we want to share those resources with the public. We're also a convener, because in addition to being a large world-class research center, we're also 88 branch libraries embedded in neighborhoods. And so we want to offer people spaces to come together and reflect and think about the moment. And then lastly, and this is a little bit of inside baseball, that we have recently launched internally, although I haven't made it public yet, that we have a new 5-year strategy, and we see this 250th anniversary as a major moment in that strategy to drive all of the things that we're going to try to work on, including bringing more people into literary culture and reading, modernizing the library card experience, our digital infrastructure, bringing more people in the doors of our research libraries, and all the things. Let me keep it moving. Here is its recently announced identity for the campaign overall will be 250 years, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then you can see the core elements. And so the rest of the slides are basically me kind of ticking through these core elements and giving you a flavor of them. I won't say them all right here. But a thing to know is that we've recently decided to anchor everything around the Declaration of Independence. And that's for a pretty good reason, because we have a fair copy of it. We have a copy of the Declaration of Independence in Jefferson's hand. So that's pretty special and feels like a great anchor if there were to be one. So among other things we're going to do, we're going to have it on display with timed tickets. We're going to open the building, the Schwartzman building downtown, for extra hours over the July 4th weekend when we're normally not open. We're going to stay open and let people come and see the document. And then, of course, there will be curriculum and field trips and all the things in the fall. School will be out for the public schools then, so we'll save those parts for the fall. So that special viewing is obviously a centerpiece. Oh, I forgot to say that one thing I didn't say here is that we're going to project some images some words from that document on the Schwartzman building, on our facade, in the evening. It won't be visible until late at night, so if you're hanging around in Midtown, you'll enjoy it. Okay, so then we have some exhibits. So the main one, if you've been to the building recently, you know our Gottesman Hall, our main exhibit that we now call Treasures of the New York Public Library. In that main hall, that's going to be completely taken over with an exhibit that deals with the actual, oh, sorry. I'm in the wrong place. Let me go here. Oh, here we go, Gottesman Hall. So it's front row seat to the revolution, talks about key founding moments and highlights, of course, New York City and New York State's role in those battles. Moving throughout the building, these are kind of three main galleries that we're taking over in the building. Moving across the building, we're going to have a gallery that's on thinking about declaring the country, declaring freedom as an unfinished declaration, as something that's still work to be done, and think about the movements and the ways that people have tried to expand those rights or make those words on the paper that were not true then, make them true. And then moving up to the third floor of the building, there's going to be an exhibition of artwork that is also riffing on the themes of the Declaration of Independence. And I should say that in all of these exhibitions, materials will be drawn from all of our research centers, including the Schomburg Center, including the Library for the Performing Arts. But we recently made a decision to swap out one of the galleries for this tighter conception. We recently decided to swap out one of the galleries and replace it with something that feels really useful and, again, part of our role as a collector in this moment, and that is to launch a public storytelling project and capture and collect people's American stories in this moment in real time, so that at the next 250th, if there is one, people could look back and listen and think about the ways that people told their American stories, what they thought about what was going on in the country at this time will be something captured in future times. And it's a project that will be launched and kind of housed in the Schwartzman building in this gallery, in the Wackenheim Gallery, but we'll also have manifestations in the branch libraries as well. So, and speaking to that, kind of moving now out of the research libraries and into the branch libraries and thinking about the way our campaign will offer engagement and convening, people come to the library for books. So of course we're gonna have a book list. We're gonna have a very large book list. We're gonna have 250 books. So it's gonna have so many different categories, and it'll be for all ages. There'll be Black history, Indigenous history, sports history, unique contributions in American music, I mean, all of the things. And then we will use that book list to drive all kinds of other mechanisms of engagement, from author talks and book clubs and programming, and we'll do that for all ages. And a new thing that you might have seen us do with our recent announcement of Best Books for 2025 is offering unlimited licensing for and audiobook copies, because often a pain point is if something's popular, it's hard to get it at the library. So we're always trying to figure out how to make it easier to get access to the things you want to read here. And we're gonna have a new library card. So a kind of special limited edition library card.
Who's gonna be on it?
I don't know. Stay tuned, TBD. Kids and teens, lots of fun stuff. We have had a lot of success recently with teen creative contests, where teens write in and we publish their work, both written and artistic and in other media, and then we add their work to our collections. And it's been a great addition to our teen engagement throughout our system. So we're gonna do a teen US 250 writing and creative contest on the theme of telling your American story. And we're gonna publish the winners. And for adults, we're gonna have a lot of different stuff, including engagement and programs at Schomburg and LPA, engagement, as I mentioned, with the book list, but also, of course, some of our branches are proximate to this history. You know, we have a Fort Washington branch. So shame on us if we don't have a walking tour to and from with a little bit of historical knowledge. So we're gonna do some walking tours and film screenings and other ways for our branch libraries to be centers of convening and processing in this moment. And of course, educators and schools. There's so many different ways that we are engaging. As some of you may know, we recently formed a new Center for Educators in Schools that works with colleagues at the Schomburg Center, LPA, Library for the Performing Arts, to think about field trips and opportunities for young people, opportunities for teachers to bring their students to the library, publishes curriculum, offers summer intensive learning experiences for educators, and all of the things. Launch. So this is my last slide. We will launch this campaign in the spring, TBD. There will be a major moment in that July 4th weekend, as I mentioned, and then we'll continue the campaign. The exhibitions will stay open in the fall so that we can do field trips and engage with the educator community, et cetera. And of course, you know, we'll have marketing and celebrities and influencers and all the things. Thank you. questions?
Yeah, any questions or comments for Brian? It sounds like we're going to be busy in 2026 as commission. Devin, did you have one?
No, other than I'd love to link to all of this information on the 250th website, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Great, thanks, Brian. Okay. Make sure I'm going in order. Okay. So next up, we have Dr. Peter Agner here. And last June, Dr. Agner from the Gotham Center for New York History joined us to tell us about an exciting interpretive platform he was working on to create an augmented reality tour of revolutionary New York. I wasn't here for that presentation, but I understand he's here to give us an update and also some of the more traditional commemorative efforts that the Gothic Center is working on. So Dr. Agner, thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me back again. Can everyone hear? I'm going to reprise a little bit what we had talked about in the summer when we were really just getting going on this project, which I'm happy to report is well advanced. And I'll be able to share some of the early tech that we've been developing for this project. Just to say a quick thing about us. I am the director of the Gotham Center for New York City History at CUNY's Graduate School in Midtown, leading academic center for New York City history. Some of you might be familiar with our founder, Mike Wallace, there, who just put out his final volume in this gigantic trilogy that he's worked on. So we have, over the years, done many projects in terms of traditional programming for an academic center and have developed a very sterling reputation, I'm proud to say. This project is the first project in what we're calling internally a media lab, an attempt to basically sort of go beyond the walls of the university and start doing mass market programming with institutions like some of those that are represented here that may not have that sort of in-house historical capacity and are looking to do that kind of programming. And so we selected as our debut the 250th anniversary, and what we did was we created a walking tour, a freedom trail for New York City, based loosely on the one that everyone knows from Boston. What you're holding in your hands is the brochure that you can find at the kiosks in Lower Manhattan today. That's produced with our marketing sponsor, the Lower Manhattan BID, or Downtown Alliance. It takes you through 16 stops in Lower Manhattan that run you through the story of not just Manhattan's experience, but the wider New York region's experience with the American Revolution from the start of the crisis until Washington's inauguration at Federal Hall here in New York City. Part of I'd mentioned this maybe sort of briefly last time, but I wanted to underscore for the people in this room, part of what we are trying to do here is to create a permanent program, not simply a one-off for the 250. I would stress for everyone that's sort of engaged in any sort of capacity related to economic development, this is a huge market and one in which New York City continually loses out on. And at this particular moment maybe is one that we should be paying more attention to. You'll see up on the screen when Boston, for example, began its Freedom Trail, they had just as few people coming to the city for their revolutionary heritage as we do today. Within a decade or two, they had grown that market to roughly where it stands today, which is 5 million people. These heritage tourists, as they're called, are the largest part of a fast-growing market. They spend more, stay longer, do more, and are more obsessed with the American Revolution above all than any other sort of sector of the tourism industry. They bring $6 billion plus to Boston and Philadelphia every year, and that's $6 billion that we think we should get to. This is our attempt to try to get that ball rolling. You'll see there the map that we created for the initial or baseline tour, which you can download on your apps right now. We are in the process of optimizing that thanks to some key funders. It takes you roughly through a similar walk through the city with audio and video that takes you through thematically and chronologically all the different aspects of New York's story. And what we're saying in that story, this is some of the slides that we put out around New York City on the Link NYC signs when we launched, and some of the early media that we had around this, underscoring New York's centrality in the revolution. So when people think of the revolution, they don't think of New York. We think that's dead wrong. We think that New York is the center of the story in many ways, and that New York gives you a very different interpretation of the revolution than people are familiar with in the public, and one that is much more in line with what scholars know to be the actual history as it was. So I won't go into all those details. You have these slides. We've been working with the Museum of the City of New York on an exhibition that will debut in May that is based on this work. We have also been working with a number of other agencies, so the idea is to sort of spin this out in different forms. We're also working on a live walking tour program. And what I'm going to talk about now is the XR version of this program. So I'm happy to announce this is official this week. I wasn't able to do this last time, but we have partnered with Ubisoft, the makers of the Assassin's Creed video game. This is, for those of you, I'm definitely not a gamer. For those of you who are also not gamers, this is the third largest video game company in the world, and the Assassin's Creed is their marquee franchise. They hired a team of historians of the American Revolution who digitally recreated the streetscape of Manhattan at this time for 2 of their games. So we are using that technology to actually revisualize for the people that are walking through the skyscrapers and canyons of Lower Manhattan what it actually looked like when you're walking through, what would it look like if you were standing in Lower Manhattan at the time of the Revolution. So we are attempting to bring the revolution to life for especially younger audiences and to engage those folks who are maybe not necessarily the sort of core demographic of heritage tourism, right? So we're trying to reach younger audiences, and we think basically this is where historical tourism is going. So we think that this has appeal beyond simply the American Revolution or even beyond history. We think this is where tourism will go, and we're trying to get in on that technology before get in on that technology and really sort of put New York City at the center of that development. So I'm going to share with you some of the sort of early demos that we have from our partner through Ubisoft. You can see here on the screen some of those digital recreations of the city that I talked about, right? So this was, again, built on Sterling scholarship. It gives you the best sense that there is out there of what it would have looked like to walk around the city and to actually see some of these events we talked about. So our friends at the museum were talking earlier about the iconic moment when they pulled down the statue of King George right after the Declaration of Independence is read in New York City. You'll be able to see some and feel some of those moments and talk to some of those historic characters in our app while you're walking around the city, and there'll also be the option to do that from home. I'll mention just briefly that our partners are also working with folks in Boston on their Freedom Trail, so this will be launched in tandem, and we're looking for sponsors to, right now we've raised upwards of $400,000 for the building the basic technology and some of the other technical sort of things that we need to do. What we're doing now is looking for sponsors, and we've got money for some of the base PR and marketing, but what we're doing now is look to sort of go beyond that, right? So we're really looking for partners that can help us get the word out about this program and put this at the center of New York's experience in the Revolution. So I'll just share with you briefly some of these demos, and then hopefully we can have a little conversation or I'll have it answer some questions. Folks up in the AV room can maybe help me out here. This is on the bottom. What you're seeing there is the prison ship HMS Jersey. This would have been anchored in Brooklyn's Wallabout Bay. This is where the vast majority of people who fight and died for America's independence are buried today, without a marker, right? The vast majority of people who die for American independence die as POWs. They are held mostly in New York City. They die mostly on this ship. There is no marker for their grave. So what you'll be able to do in our app is to walk through essentially the HMS Jersey, and in a very tactful way, I hope, give you a sense of their story. Are folks up there able to give us that video link? So this is just, again, and I'll sort of repeat what our friends at the museum said earlier. This is an early demo, so please use your imagination. Well, maybe not. There we go.
There we go.
Oh. Again? There we go. So you can see that they've used this based on maps and other schematics, have digitally recreated what the HMS Jersey looked like. And in the live version, you'll be able to actually walk through and see those POWs being held and engage with some of those and see that scene. Some of the other key moments that I can share with you today, this is our sort of optimized map that'll have that XR experience. The statue of King George being pulled down. You'll notice he looks not much like what you would imagine King George to look like. That's because they based this statue on a famous statue of Marcus Aurelius, who had, all the royals were enamored with because he built the biggest empire, and King George had just inherited the world's biggest empire right before the revolution, so they did this sort of tribute. So you'll be able to stand there, and then again, this is just an early demo, so you'll see the background of what the area actually looked like at the time. But you'll be able to stand there like one of those folks that were from Washington's army or from whatever, and pull down the statue of King George, right? And you'll be engaging with some of the characters from that time period, so you're actually learning about the history as you go. That's our sneaky way of tricking kids into learning about U.S. history. And likewise here, this is an early schematic from some of the PR campaign that we'll be doing with our folks at Ubisoft. You're standing here at the Battery. If you're standing here in the summer of 1776, you're watching as 451 British vessels sail into the harbor with the largest amphibious invasion until World War II. Their purpose to crush the American Revolution in anticipation of the Battle of New York, which is the first major battle of the war and will remain the largest battle of the war. So we're trying to give people a sense of that drama and pull them into this history with that kind of visceral emotional experience. And we're standing, of course, on what our folks in education have learned through their experience with their experiments with this kind of technology. So you would stand there, if this clicker works. This is the problem. I'm selling technology, and I'm a total Luddite. Can folks upstairs help me? There we go. So again, this is an early demo. But part of the challenge, of course, for Washington and his troops in defending New York is that they have just a few cannon in which to defend the city against this, an archipelago, against this giant invasion that has come to the city. So again, based on scholarship, about what it's like to sort of operate a cannon, you would stand there, and again, we're trying to sort of pull people in with that kind of gaming element. So this is our timeline. I'll just save you all that text to say that we're on time and ready to go. We are still, however, in the process of fundraising and are looking for partners. New York City and New York State agencies, all the usual suspects, and happy to answer any questions you have. Also want to acknowledge Ted Knutson, who is a graduate student and a second career former Wall Street executive who has been a key partner on this project as a PhD student at the CUNY Graduate School. This is, again, part of this attempt that we're doing to create a media lab is about trying to also show that CUNY, New York City's public institution of higher learning, is also a place of dynamic innovation and education, and to really sort of brand the revolution with New York State and New York City.
Great, thanks.
Yes, and a quick update about the question of the Battle of Brooklyn. We are planning, so the Battle of Brooklyn, what I was referring to as the Battle for New York, the first part of that was the largest battle of the war. We have some support from our friends in Washington who are for the Battle of Brooklyn, and that will be part of the experience that we're talking about. We're also working on, there will be, for the debut of both the exhibition at the museum that we're co-presenting and the apps that I referred to. There will be a number of live events and reenactments. We're talking with a couple of different partners about those. We are hoping to do something around the Battle of Brooklyn, although folks are a little bit leery about cannon and such going off within New York City today. So we're thinking our way through that problem.
Thanks, Dr. Agnew. Did anyone on the commission have any questions? Or go ahead, Louise.
Thank you. So the idea is that people would download this app. Is it free? Is it going to be offered free? Or?
Yes, absolutely. We are a public institution, and we exist with one mission only, and that is to promote the history of the city. So it will be free. That means that we have to do more to raise money, but that is a core goal and mission and value that we hold.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? As you were presenting, so I've already kind of committed the commission to, going to the State Museum. I would love to do that 3-mile walk in Wall Street area in Old New York. So get your walking shoes on, commission, for future meetings. So
anytime.
Thank you, Dr. Agnew.
Anytime.
So one of our speakers today had problems. It is December in upstate New York, and there's snow. So we're going to, unfortunately, Chris Coatsley from the New York Association of Towns isn't here to update us on their efforts. But we're catching up on time since we were running a little late. But we're going to have Devin Lander, who's our New York State historian, bring up a suggestion that he'd like to propose to the commission.
Yes, thank you. I won't take a half hour either, so we'll catch up even more. But yeah, so one of the ideas, as everybody knows here on the commission, our two agencies, State Ed and State Parks, facilitate these meetings. So it's Phil and I and Daniel and others work on the schedule for next year and locations. And we've learned doing this already that it's nicer to keep it, on kind of the Hudson River area, although our Western New York friends may disagree with that. But as far as making it convenient and able for people to attend, places like the Schomburg tend to work. The State Museum definitely works. But one of the ideas that we had for next year that I'd like to propose is having a commission meeting at the June New York History Conference. So those of you that may know or may not know, we have facilitated the State History Conference the last 2 years in Albany at the State Museum, Library, and Archives. It's been a project of the Office of Cultural Ed, again, to bring back the statewide conference, which had kind of gone dormant for a variety of reasons. They've been successful. We've had very good attendance, almost to the point where we can't handle the conference anymore because of the large number of people that are attending. But the idea was always that we would get it up and running in Albany, and then we would start moving it around the state in 26. So next year, in the next few weeks, 2026 is being hosted at Marist. And the theme next year is the 250th. Broadly, extremely broadly, but it's an opportunity for, to bring together not only academic historians, but we really target public historians as well, teachers, educators, people working in the field. And with it being next year at Marist and having the 250th theme, we thought it would be an opportunity for the commission to meet as part of the conference. So the conference is June 11th and 12th at Marist, as I noted. We've spoken with the coordinators at Marist. It's being run by the Hudson River Valley Institute at Marist. And they're able to give us space on the 11th, which is a Thursday. That morning or late morning, whenever we kind of want to do it, the commission can meet in a room that will, similar to this, that will have streaming. It'll have all the open meetings capability. But then there's an opportunity for the commissioners, all of us, to stay and take part in the conference as conference attendees. And also, and whether it happens the night of Thursday or perhaps during the luncheon on Friday, there's an opportunity to have a live event that the commission could take part in some capacity. We don't really know yet because, you know, I'm just kind of introducing this idea now. So we obviously would have some back and forth before we decide what we want to do, but it could be like a moderated talk that would be open to the public, would be open to the conference members, and it would include members of the commission and perhaps others discussing the 250th and, you know, what's going on. So that's kind of the general idea. There's, you know, different pieces that have to fall in place. First of all, it has to work for the co-chairs' schedules, which is the paramount issue. So we'll have to think about that, and as we get closer, we'll have to make sure that that works. But I just wanted to put it out there. It's an opportunity for this commission to take part in the statewide conference, which again is going to be themed around the 250. I should note also that it will be the first public release of the book that we've been working on. We being the State Museum and OCE partnered with Cornell University Press and with Tom Wormuth, who's faculty at Marist. We have been working on putting together a book about New York and the American Revolution, which will be released. It's on target. Talked to the folks at Cornell University Press on Monday. Should be released in June of next year. So the conference is kind of the big opportunity for, you know, that book to be out there in public as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a suggestion and a possibility. I think we're supposed to meet 4 times a year. So it wouldn't be our first meeting next year. It might be our second or third-ish meeting. And again, it's based on the availability of the commissioners. So happy to answer any questions if there are any. I probably don't have a lot of answers, but I can always. Great idea. Okay, great. Well, stay tuned as we get closer, and I'm hopeful that, you know, and of course we'll work with your staff, but that if we get it out there early enough, we can have the co-chairs available for it. And then as we kind of walk through what we want to do for the live event and for the public event, we can have those discussions as well.
That sounds great. And obviously, we'll talk to Commissioner Rosa when she gets back. Your only competition is the World Cup. I already have those dates in my calendar, so, but, you know, I will make a sacrifice. Hopefully, the U.S. isn't playing any games right then. But that is, we're at Parks is going to host some big World Cup watch parties on some of our locations. But we'll check in with Commissioner Rosa, and what we'll do is sometime probably in early January, we'll send out to the commission dates for the year and locations and make sure that the majority of us can make those. So.
I will say, too, that if it does work scheduling-wise and we can do it, the conference would be co-sponsored by the commission as well. So our logo would be on everything, and it would be a true kind of partnership with Marist.
I love the idea. I think it's a great opportunity.
Good location.
Beautiful location.
Not far from us.
Great. And last but not least, I have to tell you, so you've heard me say I've only been in the job two months so far, but one of the most impressive employees that I've met at State Parks, and we have almost 3,000, is Lavada Nahon. And Lavada is an interpreter of African American history for our Office of Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation. I did not know she also is a scholar in culinary history, so I'll have to talk to you about that too, Lavada. New York was the largest slaveholding state in the North, and the struggle against that is an affront to the ideals of the Revolution. And so at Parks, we are launching what we call our whole history, and it's an important part of makes us who we are. And so, you know, I think about one of our historic sites is John Brown's Farm up in the Adirondacks. And New York is an amazing and complicated place, and we have a lot to learn from each other. So, Lavada, we're really looking forward to hearing about the enslavement to freedom effort that you're leading for us at State Parks and Historic Sites.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, everyone, for having me here. The Our Whole History Initiative of New York State Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation seeks to reveal and share historically undertold stories of ordinary and extraordinary people and events across New York State. Falling under the umbrella of our whole history is Enslavement to Freedom, 1627, 1827 to 2027, a landmark multi-year public education and commemorative project that shines a light on New York State's deeply undertold history of slavery and its enduring legacy. In 2027, New York State will recognize the 200th anniversary of the legalized end of slavery in the state and the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the first Africans enslaved in the former colony of New Netherland. The goals for Enslavement to Freedom Project are to expand the narrative of historic sites by taking a deeper look into the history and its impact on later historic movements by developing exhibits, public program, and educational resources. Beginning in 2024, New York has been starting a series of anniversaries that will go for about the next 8 to 10 years, including the settlement of New Netherland, the establishment of New Amsterdam, which we're finishing up right now, of course, the 8 years of the Revolutionary War, and those anniversaries of Black history in 2027. We are using some of the latest research that we can acquire to bring this information to the public. Unfortunately, New York's story has been very hidden beneath the Southern history of enslavement being attached to plantations that come out of the South or of the Caribbean West Indies. We are working very hard across the 35 historic sites, 15 of which that we steward at parks fall into the colonial and New Nation period, to correct that narrative. We're working with partners across state offices and others like the New York State Museum, the New York State Library and Archive, and the New York State Partnership Trust of the Archive. Exhibits are our base. We will have 3 temporary exhibits, one at Phillips Manor Hall in Yonkers, which will reconnect New York to the Caribbean and West Indies. Many of the owners and families of some of the sites held by state parks actually also owned sugar plantations in Jamaica, Barbados, and we are bringing all of that information forward. The money from those locations will flow into New York well into the 19th century. At Lorenzo, up in the central part of the state at Casanova, we're looking at land that had been brought and used to pay soldiers from the Revolutionary War once the Sullivan and Clinton campaign have in fact burned out the indigenous communities there. A childless couple find themselves raising 6 children, 3 black, enslaved, 3 white of their family, and 2 of the boys are the exactly same age. But these children will be that new generation of the 19th century. And these parents now these people now find themselves tasked of educating them and preparing them for 2 different lives. So how does that play out in that household? At John Brown Historic Farmhouse, we will be looking at young Black abolitionists, many of whom went to the African Free School, later went to Oneida. So along with their education, they were also indoctrinated into the abolitionist movement. And we will look at that Black revolutionary story from their perspective. We also will be doing a digital exhibit in our new e-museum platform that comes off our collections database. Within the state's collection, there are many artifacts and material culture related to the colonial enslavement and New Nation period and Black history that many scholars have never seen, do not have access to. So we're trying to bring the collections forward. We are also working in partnership with the State Museum for an exhibit that will be up from 2027 into 2028 that will not only include material from the state's collections, but also from smaller historic societies and sites across the state, reinforcing again that enslavement does not happen just in New York City, not just in Brooklyn, that we go from the Atlantic Ocean up to the Canadian border. We will have, I'm sorry, let's go back. We have 6 traveling banner exhibits that we have developed 4 so far. 2 debuted this year at the state concourse level of Empire Plaza, starting with Poisonous Seeds. We took the base from a paper published in New York History Journal, summer of 2023, written by Dr. Jacobs, which gave us the details, ship name, and circumstances that brought those first 22 Africans to the tip of New Amsterdam. We also, along with that, debuted Redefining the Family. That exhibit, originally designed for Claremont Historic Site, was based on the life stories and history of a Pennsylvania legislator named Chris Rabb. In his family's history, they always said that they were connected to the Livingstons. For years, he did genealogical research, shared that with the Livingstons. It was accepted. DNA confirmed that. There are Black New Yorkers all over the state who can trace their lineage back to the 17th century. And this now confirms what they have found, but often have been pushed back when they brought that up growing up in school, that there was no slavery in New York. They then are now able to correct that, and we are supporting that work. Along with the exhibits, we will have programs coming off of that using a variety of scholars and researchers. The programs will be presented at our historic sites and other locations and will be both in person and hybrid. We also are working with educators from the State Museum for professional development. Many of our teachers brought up in the same public school system that we have been really do not know New York's early story, because our history is generally started in the British period, not in the Dutch period. So working together, we are developing ways for those teachers to be brought up to speed on what is that information. Also, working with that department and the Archive Partnership Trust, we have developed for Consider the Source New York a both film and handout of an Archive Junior on the wheat economy. We all know about the cash crops of sugar and cotton, but people say, well, we had nothing like that. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds of wheat left New York for 200 years. Most of it, people say, oh, it went to New York City. But yes, only to be transferred to ocean-going vehicles to go into the Caribbean, to go into the West Indies. The Revolutionary War stopped those ships, and thousands of people bound on those islands died. So the wheat economy is very important to our story, and now teachers have ready access, information that they can bring into their classrooms, that they can order for free to support New York's story. We also are doing an ArcGIS story map, looking at the period of transition and the beginning of what we believe is the pushback against Black civil rights. In the state's first constitution, all men, as long as they can afford the tax to vote for whatever level of seat that they are hoping for, do vote. Free Black men during this period have such an impact on what ends up in the legislature, in fact, that they are disenfranchised in the second state's constitution. So our story map is going to look at that period to say what happened, again, that push for citizenship, that push for civil rights does not start in the 1960s. It actually begins when humans are reclassified from property to people. At the New York History Conference, we will be hosting, in partnership with the conference and our host, Marist College, some of the first sessions statewide on the current state of Black burial grounds and cemeteries. These sacred locations are an issue across the state. It happens when bones are discovered because a water main has broken, or they know that a cemetery is there, but it's not marked, it's not honored, or instances where a burial ground has been removed and it has left a wound in the community. How do municipalities, how do individual organizations manage all of that information? And we're looking forward to that because the information that we will be sharing is not just for Black burial grounds, but any unmarked burial ground that does not fall under the NACPRA protocol. We're also going to be looking at doing an archaeological survey. Again, archaeologists across the state have found religious and cultural remains. They dig them up, they document them, they store them away. We need that history to be out into the public sphere. We need to have a record of where are those artifacts? Where are the reports that went to them? So scholars who are looking at this material coming out of the southern colonies, the southern states, the Caribbean, West Indies, can now connect New York right into that and trace those lineages right back to Africa. On June 5th, so legally, slavery ends on July 4th. Communities in 1827 across the state were worried about racial reprisals. There were some celebrations that happened. They were small. They tended to be inside. But the Black press tells us that on July the 5th, people took to the streets. So we're going to honor their choices. And on July the 5th at 12 noon, we're asking everyone in New York, whether that's a municipal bell, a church bell, or a handbell, at 12 noon for 1 minute to ring a bell, to acknowledge that, yes, there was slavery in New York. Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Levada?
Yes.
Go ahead, Georgia.
Thank you so much. I would like to advocate for Long Island to be included, possibly, and specifically thinking about Comset Historic Preserve, which is the birth site of Jupiter Hammond, born enslaved, but as you know, Levada, he traces back to Sylvester Manor on Shelter Island, which is the first provisioning plantation in the Northeast. And so we know the lineages of his family because I think we also get short-sighted on Long Island in terms of northern slavery. So Jupiter Hammond, and of course it's a state park, so it's a state resource. I think it would be very awesome to include him in that. And then also thinking about the Gradual Emancipation Act, I'm thinking about Pierce Concer's site in Southampton. But I do think that this commission is seated until, what, 2033? Mm-hmm. And so also we're also commemorating, which we do every year, is Amistad Week on the East End. And 2027, I'm planning a massive bang-up job with Amistad. So just look forward to that. But we've been doing a lot of research. We've had, for the last 4 years, we've been having week-long celebrations in Montauk. It's been great. We bring international scholars. We bring the replica back. And we've even retraced the steps back from Montauk to Connecticut, to New Haven, to even Farmington, where they spent out their days during the trial, and even one is interred after being drowned. But I just wish that, again, as a state resource that has a very specific person, Jupiter Hammond, And as many of you know, it's very hard to trace the family lineages of an enslaved person, that we have a first name, a last name, we know their parents, we know the grandparents, we knew where he's born. I think it's really important to the narrative of Northern slavery, specifically on Long Island, and the fact that we know his whole entire life, and that he is the first published African-American and not Phyllis Wheatley, as some textbooks wrongly get regularly. So that would be my pitch for Long Island. Thank you.
Well, I can say-
and it's really a bang-up job. I love it. You did a fantastic job, and I'm looking forward to participating.
Thank you. And Jupiter Hammond is being considered, included, so just know he is already there. But also, I would like to just encourage everyone. It is easy for us to say emancipation, but in New York, we have abolition. And the difference is, it's the legal end of the law of slavery. Emancipation takes us to that national stage where one can free enslave, but the law of slavery remains. So I'm pushing for what the law says, because that law is so complicated. It actually binds people to slavery, but they're not called slaves anymore. They're called indentured servants. But the last people in New York are not freed until the 1840s. The last slave trader in New York is not hung until 1861. New York is deep in it. And because of the deep and wealthy and flow of money into our state, that will go on until the 19th century. So for me, personally, I stick to the law, which is the gradual abolition law. We are freeing people, but not. The law ends, but really, slavery doesn't. People are not freed. So that's one of the things that we're working on too, those nuances of language, because it is the nuances of that language and the impact of the 5 to 7 adjustments around that law that keeps us tied to slavery well beyond the Civil War. So thank you.
Thank you for that. I agree with that as well. I often talk to my students about what liberty actually means. And we know well after enslavement, they do not directly have access to liberty, which does not mean freedom. It means access to economic, social, and political. And we know that we're still fighting for that. So I totally agree with that. And also, I am for place-based information. I think when I have teachers who come to me and say that they have a hard time teaching this history, I've taken a note out of the Zenith Projects page and do place-based teaching. And so when they go to a place that is a fact, and it really does help with the education of our communities. So when I say Comset State Park, which is in an area that is highly affluent, not easy to get to, I think it's important for us to really think about being in a built environment and place-based history, which often doesn't happen on a statewide level with statewide resources. But thank you for your presentation here.
I learned something new every time I listen to Levada. And for any of it, she is also helping me with my language and understanding the different nuances there. So thank you, Levada. So we managed to end early unless any commission member wants a last word. I'm going to close down our commission meeting, and we'll get back to you. Commissioner Rosa and I, early in January, will send out the meeting dates for 2026 and locations. So thank you for your patience today, and I'm looking forward to my second commission meeting next year. Thanks, everyone.